The former executive secretary of the Bolivarian Alliance for the Peoples of Our America, Sacha Llorenti, denounces Carter Center's position. In Argentina, the State Workers Association denounced that the next month a group from the United States would take over the metal mechanics sector of Rio Tercero and then move on to other facilities. And on Saturday, 110 people died and dozens got injured after an Israeli attack on a school in Gaza where several Palestinians were sheltered. Hello and welcome to From the South. I'm Alejandra Garcia from teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. Carter Center's irresponsible position on Venezuelan elections are denounced. On Friday, the former executive secretary of the Bolivarian Alliance for the Peoples of Our America, Sacha Llorenti, accused the Carter Center of assuming irresponsible positions towards the elections in Venezuela. This occurred after the campaign to delegitimize the elections held on July 28th, to which this entity has joined. In this regard, he denounced that the reasons for this are in the composition of its donors, particularly the annual more than $1 million sourced partially from the organizations dedicated to the change of government not only in Venezuela but in other countries of the region. President Nicolás Maduro Moros offered statements after his appearance before the Supreme Court of Justice this Friday and expressed his deep respect for his counterparts from Brazil, Colombia and Mexico. In the words of the President Maduro, a conversation with the three presidents is pending about such a complex and manipulated reality. The head of state also pointed out that Venezuelan Foreign Minister Iván Gil is in communication with his counterparts and assured that they maintain permanent communication relations with those three governments. He concluded saying that Venezuela respects the sovereignty of each country and they do not interfere in the internal affairs of any of them, nor do they practice microphone diplomacy. On Friday, YouTube closed Venezuelan channel Con el Mazo Dando, a program hosted by Diosdado Cabello, first Vice President of the United Socialist Party of Venezuela.
Me mandaron esta placa, escuálido, reviéntense ahí.
They sent me this plaque, squalid. Blow yourselves up there. And it says here, look, presented to Con el Mazo Dando for passing 100,000 subscribers. Hey, do you know why I say this? Because next week this channel will be knocked down. I guarantee it. You're going to see. You're going to see. You're going to see, because here the rebels are going to get a hernia because they have not even been thanked.
In Colombia, the Minister of Justice, Ángela María Buitrago, referred to the planning of an assassination attempt against President Gustavo Petro and described it as an act of the utmost gravity. From the city of Cúcuta, in the northeast of the country, where he was participating in the 20th Congress of Procedural Law of the Francisco de Paula Santander University, she referred to several issues related to the FONADE case and the planning of an attack against the head of state. Hours earlier, the Ministry of Defense linked the self-dominated Central General Staff of the Revolutionary Colombian Armed Forces dissidents as responsible for the operation, about which it provided rigorous details.
Bueno, yo creo que es el de la mayor gravedad. No oí al presidente.
I think it's the most serious one. I didn't hear the president. I heard the minister affirming the reasons why it has been detected in several locations, and not just one, and about those cases. Because the issue is the most serious one in my approach. Because I think not just undermining the top authority of the country, and the signification of a democratic election as the one in this case, but what it means trying to do that. I think it's a very regrettable message in Colombia.
In Colombia as well, a public hearing was held on the security status of peace signatories, which sought dialogue with peace signatories, congressmen, collectives and government institutions. In the hearing that took place in virtue of a constitutional court order, there was a dialogue about the advances in different institutions to overcome the unconstitutional state of affairs declared by the Constitutional Court. In this sense, the challenge that remains after the balance made this Friday is to guarantee the life and integrity of the signatories, of which 431 have been killed, as well as to ensure the security of the territorial spaces for training and reincorporation, of which 7 have been displaced.
La preocupación de la Corte Constitucional.
The concern of the Constitutional Court is that it gave 16 orders to different institutions precisely so that the rights of the peace signers be restored, so that there be preventive measures, so that murders stop occurring. Let's remember that there are 7 territorial training and reincorporation areas displaced of the locations they were because of the lack of guarantees. It's a bit what we are looking for, is to make that balance what is each other and every one of these institutions going to do. The ones that investigate, the ones that prevent, the ones that protect, to guarantee them life.
Sin duda alguna, y eso lo hemos dicho, lo hemos conversado en distintas instancias.
There's no doubt, and we've said it, we've talked it in different instances. Security cannot be an individual process exclusively associated to issues of what we call top security. That has to do with escorts, that has to do with guns, that has to do with vehicles, etc. But that necessarily passes for moving forward in the security of the territories, particularly the territories where peace signers are today, of course.
Let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. On August 9th, Peru approved a law that declares crimes against humanity committed before 2002 in the fight against the guerrillas to be prescribed, an initiative that will benefit former President Alberto Fujimori and 600 military officials on trial. In the midst of the rejection of the Inter-American Court of Human Rights, the law was published in the official gazette after the government decided not to observe it. The text annuls proceedings for alleged crimes committed during the internal conflict or war against terrorism, according to the authorities of the time, which left more than 69,000 people dead and 21,000 disappeared between 1980 and 2000. According to the law, no one will be prosecuted, convicted, or punished for crimes against humanity or war crimes for acts committed prior to July 1st, 2002, when the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court entered into force in Peru. Still on Peru, the Public Prosecutor's Office imposed 36 months of preventive detention against the brother of President Nicanor Boluarte Segarra for the crime of leading a criminal organization. The Peruvian Prosecutor's Office imposed preventive detention against President Dina Boluarte's brother for a case related to the Ministry of the Interior for the appointment of prefects and subprefects who would later contribute to create a registered the Party of Ciudadanos por el MUP por el Perú. The hearing was in charge of the Judge Richard Augusto Concepcion. Likewise, the Public Ministry summoned Boluarte Segarra for next August 15th to testify for another corruption case in which he is allegedly charged with incompatible negotiation. In Brazil, on Friday, around 1 o'clock in the afternoon, an aircraft of the Boe Pass airline with at least 62 people on board crashed into a residential area in the locality of Vinhedo, Sao Paulo. The Brazilian government confirms that there were no survivors, and President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva decreed this Friday afternoon 3 days of official state mourning for the 62 people who lost their lives in the accident. According to a communique released by the Vinhedo prefecture, the highest risk areas have been already controlled. The document also highlights the work of the social workers, psychologists, and civil defense workers who are assisting the families of the victims. The investigation is under the command of the Center for Aeronautical Accident Research and Prevention. The government of Cuba expressed its condolences to Brazil after a plane crashed that left no survivors. Through the social network X, Cuban Foreign Minister Bruno Rodriguez expressed his deepest condolences on behalf of the nation to the government and people of Brazil. Rodriguez later on expressed his solidarity with the grief of the families and relatives of the victims. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Bolivia also sent its message of condolences to the Brazilian government after the death of 62 passengers in a plane crash. In a statement issued through social networks, Bolivian Foreign Minister Zelinda Sosa expressed her solidarity with the families of the deceased and with the government of President Lula da Silva. The loss of human lives is devastating and our prayers are with all of those affected, Sosa said in a statement. In Argentina, the State Workers Association announced that next month, a group from the United States would take over the metal mechanics sector of Rio Tercero and then move on to other facilities. A national plenary meeting held in view of the situation of the state-owned company Fabricaciones Militares determined the state of alert and permanent assembly with mobilizations against the mutation to a joint stock company perpetrated by the government of Javier Milei and Minister Federico Sturzenegger. The association argues that it is due to the policy of adjustment and dismantling carried out by the government, and added that the plenary was attended by all the workers of all the productive units of Fabricaciones Militares. In Mexico, President Andrés Manuel López Obrador declared that the U.S. government continues to withhold information about the arrest of Mexican drug traffickers Ismael Mayo Zambada and Joaquín Guzmán López, son of El Chapo Guzmán. The Mexican president expressed his disagreement with the lack of cooperation from the U.S. government to clarify the circumstances surrounding the arrest of Zambada and Guzmán. López Obrador raised a series of questions regarding the way in which both drug traffickers arrived to U.S. soil, the origin of the aircraft, and the negotiation processes. In response to this, the U.S. ambassador to Mexico, Ken Salazar, affirmed that Washington did not plan the capture operation. UNESCO's representative in Mexico, Andrés Morales Arciniegas, stressed the importance of advancing policies and programs to guarantee the rights of indigenous peoples, whose International Day was celebrated on Friday. Arciniegas explains that President-elect Claudia Sheinbaum dedicated an entire section to indigenous and Afro-Mexican populations in her 100 Steps for Transformation. He pointed out that these peoples are a central part of the cultural and linguistic diversity of the country, where more than 21% of the population is indigenous. He also stressed that during the last few years, Mexico has made some progress, such as the reduction of multidimensional extreme poverty among indigenous peoples.
Residente de la Ciudad de México. Yo soy del estado de Puebla, de la Sierra Negra.
I am a resident of Mexico City. I am from the state of Puebla, in Sierra Negra. I currently reside in Mexico City, but I have not forgotten my clothes or my language or my roots, which is my culture, where I come from. And that is why we are here. And also because we are celebrating the International Day of the Indigenous People, which is a very important day.
We have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to visit our YouTube channel at teleSUR English. There you'll be able to rewatch our interviews, top stories, special broadcasting, and more. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final short break, don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. The death toll of the attack perpetrated by the Israeli occupiers' troops against the school in Tabin rises to 110. The United Nations Special Rapporteur for the Palestinian Territories, Francesca Albanese, condemned the indifference of the world and the inability to protect the Palestinians, honoring the most basic meaning of international law. The governments of Egypt and Jordan have also rejected the actions of Zionism and emphasized their unwillingness to dialogue. Likewise, the families of the kidnapped Hamas hostages claim that the attacks authorized by the extreme right frustrate the hopes of a ceasefire and an exchange of hostages. As we said, in Palestine, thousands of people were displaced again to the west of the city of Khan Yunis after the beginning of a new illegal operation of the Israeli army.
The displaced citizens demand the international community to stop the crimes of the occupation in the occupied Palestinian territories.
Aquí sentimos el tormento que va y viene.
Here we feel the torment coming and going. Every day there is an evacuation. We don't know where we will go. All we have left now is death. This is called slow execution. We have been going back and forth for a year, and negotiations have been going on for a year. We sleep on chairs and people are suffering. The leaders must intervene and stop the crimes of Israel. Enough of the siege. There is no security except with God. There is no security in Gaza. All places are targets.
The Gaza population is suffering the consequences of the Israeli bombardment and displacement after losing their personal belongings and basic supplies.
Hace una semana y hace un mes fuimos.
A week ago and a month ago we were evacuated, and every year we come and go. We have no source of income. We have no food, no clothes. We have nothing, and half the people are barefoot, homeless on the streets. And we are at God's door. Do we sleep on the street now when we can only go back to our homes? And there are no houses at all.
Despite the fear and humiliation by the Israeli military forces, the Gazans keep their faith in the end of the Israeli siege.
What will one do? We don't know where we will go because of fear and humiliation. And when will we say other than thank God for what He has given us? May God support you and strengthen you against the enemies. We don't know where we will go. God is with us. May God protect you and grant you victory. I don't know where I will go. Look at the state of the people, how they have been humiliated. 20 times we have left our homes. This is almost the 20th times we have been displaced, as you can see.
More than 2 million people have been displaced in the Gaza Strip since October 7, 2023, facing dangers such as respiratory diseases, bombardment of shelters, and a severe humanitarian crisis. The Israeli army announced once again that all areas east of Khan Yunis city will be displaced to the west because it will start a military operation, and now the citizens are displaced and escaping death once again.
One of the 15 illegal bases that the United States keep in the Syrian territory was attacked on Saturday overnight, the illegal base of Kerab al-Jir. On Monday, aerial vehicles impacted in several opportunities against the Washington base. They targeted the prefabricated rooms and various military vehicles. Images circulating in social networks show some fires while the Pentagon troops deploy drones and helicopters as part of their high alert operative. Syria has repeatedly denounced the presence of these illegal installations in its territory, as well as the dangerous task against peace they carry out. The Russian government notified the International Atomic Energy Agency of everything related to the situation at the Kursk nuclear power station following consecutive attacks by Ukrainian forces against this territory bordering the Slavic nation. The Russian mission in Vienna, Austria, detailed on its Telegram channel that on August 8th, fragments and debris were discovered at the station, presumably fragments of falling missiles, including in the area of the radioactive waste processing complex. On the same note, they added that these are direct shelling facts against the town of Kurchatov, the nuclear power plant and the power plant itself. Moreover, the infrastructure has not yet been registered, but the situation remains intense. The Russian Committee reported that the Kursk, Belgorod and Bryansk regions are under a regime of anti-terrorism operations. In the mentioned territories, measures and restrictions apply under Article 11 of the Federal Law of March 6, 2006 on counter-terrorism. The measure applies amid unprecedented military operations and after several Ukrainian attempts to destabilize the situation in the different regions where many civilians were injured. The committee took the measure to ensure the safety of the residents of the affected areas and declared that all state agencies are taking additional measures to maintain order and strengthen security. In Spain, the former president of Catalonia, Carles Puigdemont, informed that he is back in Belgium in the municipality of Waterloo after his brief appearance in Barcelona. Through his account on the social network X, the politician criticized the interaction with the media that the Catalan Interior Department had on August 9th to explain why the police had failed to arrest him. He also stressed that he has never had the will to voluntarily surrender to the police or to facilitate his arrest because he considers it was unacceptable that he is being persecuted for political reasons and that in addition the amnesty law is not being applied. On August 8th, Puigdemont, a fugitive from Spanish justice and resident in Belgium since 2017, appeared in the center of Barcelona where he addressed his supporters and then got lost in the crowd. We have come to the end of this news brief, but you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net and join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram and TikTok. For Telesur English, I'm Alejandra Garcia. Thank you for watching.